Once upon a time, I was doom-scrolling through Twitter. It was a benign day in March of 2024 when, out of the blue, a VTuber reached out to me, a total stranger, trying to cheer me up just for the sake of it. A VTuber, I thought. I've seen him around. Watched clips of Gura and Fuamoko and Mother V3 and Coronet and Filian, but I've never actually spoken to one before. Huh. I chatted with her for a bit, she and I suddenly became mutuals, and I walked away from the experience thinking, wow, VTubers are really nice. I've been followed by novelists, filmmakers, game programmers, comic book creators, and whatnot, so it was only a matter of time before I started getting VTubers added to the list. It was my first time talking to one, and that first impression was incredibly sweet. I assumed that was it, and the rest of the day would carry on as normal. Then, mere minutes later, a second VTuber did the exact same thing. Reached out to me personally on a whim, chatted with me, cheered me up, and followed me. Let's call this person Legume. Instantly, my feed was suddenly flooded with VTubers. What the heck is going on? Why is everyone chanting VTuber uprising? Why is everyone so nice? I wanted to know more. Everyone was so easy to talk to. This was only a couple months after I had just unfollowed a ton of content creators en masse that had slowly become addicted to perpetual outrage. So, to instead start seeing content creators so incentivized to bring joy and direct interaction was so heartwarming and welcoming. I dusted off my Twitch account I'd barely used and wanted to start watching some of these people. I decided whoever streamed first between the two who reached out to me would be the very first VTuber I'd ever watch live. In the end, it ended up being Legume. I popped into her stream and she recognized me. She was so excited to see me, like she was expecting me. I wasn't used to live streams at the time, so all the implications hit me like a truck when it dawned on me that I could type anything into the chat, then visibly see the hostess turn to look at it and watch her start beaming while she read it out loud for anyone in the world to hear as she responded to what I had to say. It felt powerful. So I thought, what should I do with this power? I know! I want to see how many times I can get her to start grinning ear to ear, and if I can get her to laugh, even better! I always wanted to be a superhero when I was little, so when I saw this young woman making people's days with a secret identity and a spiffy costume using technical skills I already had, that's what sprang to mind, especially when she started talking about being motivated into VTubing by using her revenue to fund life-saving procedures that were close to her heart. Behind the cute anime girl persona was someone who said she wanted to save lives. I wanted to try it too. I could do all this from the comfort of my own room? Sign me up! She had so casually shown me a pragmatic way to make my childhood dream come to life that was more attainable than I thought. It was through her actions I considered that what's beyond the horizon for you is just around the corner for someone else. We hit it off immediately. I loved cheering her up. I quickly started looking into who else was out there in this VTuber community, catching someone's debut next alongside a wide variety of personalities and styles in rapid succession. It nurtured my love of getting to know people from radically different walks of life. Soon I started making little YouTube shorts for them. Even after I started forming closer friendships with other VTubers, I still held Legume in high regard as the colleague who showed me the ropes and gave me just the push I needed. Sort of like a little sister I'd happily protect, but also kind of like a mentor I was grateful to learn from. I wasn't sure if the VTuber community had a term for someone like this. Meanwhile, over the next several months, Legume and I talked constantly. She showed interest in having me as an editor, got ecstatic to see me type in her Discord, became disappointed when I couldn't play a game of Gartic Phone with her, reminisced on memories of us live on stream. She told me I was going to be a great VTuber someday, and straight up said she considered me trustworthy and even loved me. She motivated me to be gentler and more understanding. I was always there to bring Legume cheer, comfort, and support. I even gave a shot at making some fan art for her birthday. Oftentimes she seemed troubled. She was constantly begging people for their friendship over and over again. She would often vent her own trauma onto us live on stream, talking about family members almost dying, her own near-death experiences, and conversations she'd been having with her therapist. Meanwhile, there was a point where she got caught up in controversy twice in a row over false accusations made against her that she was somehow still a minor, which she nearly doxed herself to disprove, and allegedly being a ripoff of a much more popular VTuber for merely having a single common biological trait that already exists in nature. I and many others didn't even hesitate to stand up for her while aggressors were hurling false accusations against her. We continued to console her and show support in her Discord server. Eventually, the controversies died down and everyone moved on. Then, about a week after everyone had stopped talking about the controversies, the general chat channel was suddenly gone. No explanation. Legume and her mods had all gone radio silent, Everyone was confused. We, the fans, all unanimously agreed to migrate over to the media channel instead, and the community continued chattering in a somewhat normal manner once more, but with no mods in sight. A month went by. Suddenly, a new general chat channel was suddenly created, and we were finally given something vaguely resembling an explanation. As it turned out, the official reason given for deleting GChat was to get people to stop talking about the controversies. The controversies that we had already stopped talking about on our own accord. The controversies that no one ever told us to stop talking about. And how exactly was deleting GChat specifically supposed to contribute to this goal that was never communicated? Not a word of explanation. This was one of the first red flags of what was to come. It wasn't always clear what Legume wanted. Sometimes she'd say she wanted people to only DM her for business, never for fun. Then a couple days later, she'd say we could only DM her for friendship, never soliciting. Then a couple more days later, no one was allowed to DM her in any capacity. Then a couple more days later, she'd be all like, "Where is everybody? I don't bite! DM me, DM me, DM me!" Then she'd keep cycling between these four states over and over again until it was a complete blur. There was this other time where she had to go on hiatus due to being hospitalized. A blood infection, she called it. Legume's audience started flooding her DMs with fan mail, and in a rare move, the mods actually communicated to tell them to stop. I asked permission from the mods if it was okay to send Legume any kind of get well message or story of good news, likening it to a virtual hospital visit, but they said not to, so I just let it be, as I obviously didn't want to be one of the people overstepping her boundaries or reaching her comfort zone. On another occasion, a new face entered the server. He was polite, though seemed a bit sad, saying he hoped to find new friends here. He'd only made like 2 comments, and everyone gave him a warm welcome. That is, until Legume showed up and banned him on the spot. When asked why, the only response she gave was, "The vibes." This was rather unusual behavior, considering Legume had a policy that no matter how much of a lost cause they were, if she needed to ban someone, she would ping them in the warning channel first to let them know they had crossed the line, before ultimately giving them a personal, detailed breakdown of what they had done wrong before casting them out. Something had changed. One day, Legume announced on Twitter that she was going to take suggestions for new games to stream. Tons of people offered suggestions. I offered 4, including Palworld. The very next time Legume went live, she was streaming Palworld. I thought that seemed obvious. The game was still trending hard at the time, and of course it was something that appealed to her, and she was adamant about making her in-game character look like her VTuber model. After collecting some pals, she named them after her mods and friends. I was kinda hoping I'd get one, but I didn't want to say anything and pressure her. I was more than content to simply watch along for the ride and use chat to make her smile and laugh like she'd already gotten me into the habit of doing, and help if she asked. After the stream, I thought it was just a neat coincidence that she streamed the game I suggested, but I was convinced it had to have just been a popular choice her fans wanted. That's when I decided to look up her tweet again and check the replies, and I was gobsmacked. Upon all odds, no one else had suggested Palworld. Only me! She said it was her first time asking her community to suggest to her what games she should stream, and out of every option presented to her, she went with my pick first. I didn't need a pal named after me. I already got the coolest reward of all. No one else could claim this. I was so happy. But wait, it gets better. I mentioned it to a couple of our mutual friends, and they thought it was a huge W. After that point, Legume kept playing Palworld on her own time. We could tell, since there was that "Legume is playing Palworld" notification on the roles list in her Discord server for all to see. Time and time again, she kept playing it, and that made me smile. I was so happy that I had nailed her taste so accurately and found her something that truly resonated with her and brought her so much joy. Then, one day, she came to us all distraught and remorseful and said, "Guys, I have a confession to make. I've actually been playing Palworld off stream without you guys over and over and over and over and over again. It's just so much fun. I'm sorry." Oh yeah, we know. What? After I had finished giggling, I continued and pointed out to her the notification at the top of the screen with the Discord/Steam integration that had counted every single solitary second in real time that she had spent playing Palworld that was being displayed for her entire audience to see. She had no idea it was even there the whole time. It was so funny and so sweet. She was thinking of us the entire time. Legume had given me such wonderful memories and opened doors for me to new friendships, career opportunities, and treasured life experiences. I had been given so much to be thankful for. Legume showed me the ropes in this space, encouraged me, and guided me. I considered her a figure of authority and experience worth listening to, so I made sure to do whatever she asked without question or complaint, even if it didn't make any sense to me. I put my faith in her and trusted her leadership. One of the oddest things was that she had a rule that we were required to roleplay with her anime girl fantasies and treat her like our queen at all times, regardless of context. Even while she was trauma dumping on us or talking business with me behind closed doors, she would behave like a bouncy cartoon character and we were all required to play along. No exceptions. I thought it seemed a bit unorthodox, but I wanted to fit in, be respectful, and I assumed it was all a normal part of the subculture, so I just rolled with it. Come June, I started testing the waters as a VTuber myself and sent her a screenshot of my first stream, thanking her for giving me just the push I needed. She was so happy to see her actions had made a positive impact and that I wanted to follow in her footsteps. Sometime in September, Legume excitedly declared in a tweet that she wanted a great big collab with other VTubers who share the same theme as her, asking for them to reveal themselves in her replies. She got a bunch of total strangers sharing her theme in those replies, and she gleefully responded to them all. I asked her if it was okay for me to name drop anyone I could vouch for. I thought it was neat that I had two oddly specific VTuber mutuals, and it seemed like it'd be fun to see them both in the same place at the same time. I could've just tagged the person, but I wanted to ask permission first, just to be extra polite. Between the two, Legume was far smaller, so it seemed like this would be helpful to her. Meanwhile, the other similar VTuber always gushed about how I was able to cheer her up in the chat, and I thought it'd be the cutest thing if she got to meet the person who instilled that in me in the first place. They might as well have been sisters. Well, I asked Legume in the replies if it was okay for me to name drop anyone, and I never got a response. I waited a few days and asked again in DMs. No response. I waited a few more days and asked again in her Discord. Again, no response. Not even from the mods. So I assumed the answer must be no and moved on. Eventually, my VTuber shorts literally paid off when the very subject of one of my fan videos personally reached out to me for my video editing services. I couldn't wait to tell Legume and the other VTubers I knew, but chose to wait until everything was official and a public announcement had been approved. I couldn't wait to share the good news with Legume and thank her for helping me get here. Unfortunately, I never got the chance. By some bizarre twist of fate, on the very day I was about to show her my own Battle Shonen Exorcist VTuber model in the self-promo channel, Legume suddenly announced she was rebranding, effective immediately, saying it was in the plans for months, and then went viral, as her follower count tripled overnight. Almost instantly, she abruptly went into what I can only describe as a ballistic, frantic, exceedingly paranoid state in which she suddenly assumed just about anyone she had gotten along with up until this point was somehow secretly out to get her all along and gain control over her. Despite this, she desperately opened the floodgates to allow anyone to instantly become a mod if they simply asked, including complete strangers, yet focused her fury and suspicions on people who had simply made her fan art recently or were confirmed to be working on some, whether it was of the rebrand or not. As for me, she started lashing out, acting like I was on some mad crusade to undo her rebrand, despite me being the very first person to call her by the new name after she made her announcement, even after she said she was fine with people calling her by the old name, but I wanted to get used to the new name anyway. And I had even told her over and over and over again that I was looking forward to her re-debut. Even back then, I was already used to friends of mine rebranding. Heck, I've known several VTubers who've had to quietly rebrand in secret, not telling the public, but they felt safe telling me in private what they were rebranding to, and I will take those secrets with me to the grave. Regardless, she wouldn't stop screaming at me and escalating the situation, responding as though every sentence out of my mouth was the exact opposite of whatever I just said. The last thing I ever heard from her was, "You must not care about the person behind the account." I didn't want to argue, and it was pretty obvious she was upset, even if it wasn't entirely clear how or why, and her head mod demanded I explain! Thus, I felt like I was going insane and couldn't trust my own judgment. So I tried talking to a mutual friend of ours for advice, wondering what I had done wrong and how to make it up to her. far as we could tell, she was probably just stressed from the complexities of rebranding and overwhelmed by the surge of newfound responsibility from being thrust with such a huge crowd colliding on her all at once. Must have just considered us as safe to vent at and let it all blow over. Then, I privately apologized to Legume for scaring her and making her feel unloved, attempting to relay as clearly as possible that I appreciate her and, once again, am looking forward to supporting her in this new chapter. The last thing I got to say to her was, "You're my hero." This didn't help at all, as on the morning of October 15th, 2024, I checked Discord, and everything seemed normal. Still no reply. I went to work, I returned home, checked Discord again, and that's when I saw I was receiving a plethora of frantic DMs from her fans cluing me in that all hell had broken loose while I was out, offering their condolences and hoping that Legume and I would work it out someday. I was confused at first until I noticed that her server was missing from my Discord list and her fans were reaching out to tell me what had happened. Turns out, Legume had been openly gossiping about me in front of over 1,000 people in her Discord, demonizing me and demonizing me and demonizing me for the high crime of following the rules, showing kindness, and never once asking for anything in return, as if that was somehow irrefutable proof that I was up to something and she would not hear otherwise. She tried to paint apologizing in private as some clout-chasing paparazzi stunt to get people to gasp in awe, somehow. Maybe I'm naive, but I'm having a hard time picturing what this would even look like in practice. Meanwhile, she claimed that my every act of kindness and obedience had to be some transactional ploy to pressure favors out of her and control her somehow, specifically because I never asked her for anything in return, citing it as obvious. Therefore, she believed parasocial demands were somehow inevitable and she would not give in. Every attempt to accommodate her every request was framed as being fueled by some nebulous ulterior motive to get something. To this day, I haven't got the foggiest clue what she assumed I wanted from her in the first place. I just like to make her smile and laugh. I like seeing her happy. Why would I have any desire to control her? I considered her leadership material. If anything, I let her control me. I have my own streams to worry about. I have my clients to cater to. I have a comic I'm trying to write. I ain't got time to control someone. Why the heck would I want that? That doesn't interest me in the slightest. I watched mod applications go up in her server twice, and I ignored them both times because I'm not interested in having power or control over anyone. Heck, I was looking forward to hiring her for a voice acting project or two. I had more than I could ask for and wanted to thank her for it. And this is how she reacted. It's like she cannot comprehend the correlation between people being nice to her simply because she was nice to us. I am neither the first nor the last person she did this to. If she ever changed her mind on something she mentioned, or anyone had misinterpreted her somehow, she never told us. As I'd later find out, she kept abusing her newfound viral power, lashing out with defamation and personal attacks like this upon her friends, fans, and even direct business associates to such ludicrous extremes that she nearly drove one of my most vulnerable friends to... In my case, Legume straight up vilified me for entirely hypothetical what-if scenarios she insisted I was planning to act upon that never even crossed my mind, and things she literally told us to do in the first place. Every single one of her accusations was like this. Every single one. At no point did she address a single one of her concerns or grievances with me first before publicly putting me on blast in front of her audience behind my back based on baseless assumptions. There was never a single moment where she was ever like, hey, please don't do this, or hey, why did you do that, or hey, what did you mean by XYZ over any of this. She just guessed wildly that I was some cartoonishly evil, mustache-twirling supervillain and an out-of-touch lunatic hell-bent on wanting to control her by being so darn nice she'd have no choice but to be pressured into doing whatever I said, and that I was clearly doing this to all VTubers in general, insisting I treat VTubers like we're in an anime, despite Legume enforcing that rule of hers, that everyone is required to indulge in her anime queen fantasies. She didn't even list a single example of anything she accused me of, nor any rules being broken. Her only evidence for all this was the fact that I never asked for anything in return, and that was deemed suspicious enough to condemn me publicly without even talking to me about it first, despite talking to me all the time, as if there was no other possible explanation as to why anyone would simply be nice to her after she was so nice to us. All this talking about me with absolutely no talking to me. If there was ever a problem, why didn't she just tell me? Especially when I asked. Every time I double-checked with her to make sure I understood her correctly, she always assured me everything was fine. If everything was not fine, why didn't she say so? Every time she told me to do something, I complied. Every time she told me not to do something, I complied. Why was this treated any differently? And I wasn't even the only person she did this to. Everyone she targeted has even less of a voice than I do. I got off easy. Her other victims suffered worse. According to multiple eyewitnesses, several people desperately tried to warn her this was a bad idea and to just communicate before going scorched earth on people who had always loyally stood by her side. And her response was to threaten them all into silence, that she'd ban them all too if they didn't shut up and bow down to her reckless, impulsive decision. So, they turned to me. It was heartbreaking. I tried reaching out to a mod whom I'd heard was the only one who tried to stand up for us, but I was left ignored. I kept in touch with people I knew Legume had hurt, found work with my first VTuber client, and reluctantly began to move on. And then Legume struck again. A few months later, she tried to paint her own rig artist as being parasocial for simply doing her damn job and had forbidden her mods from communicating with the artist at any point. This immediately led to endless harassment and threats from Legume's defenders. The artist begged and pleaded for it to stop, fearing for her life, while Legume publicly condemned and humiliated the artist for simply double-checking to make sure she was doing what she was asked after Legume had started ghosting her, and for the artist mentioning her own mental health in her own tweets, even though Legume was trauma dumping on us all the time. Legume gave an overtly cold, flippant, hypocritical, and dismissive, nothing to see here folks, attitude about the whole thing. In the end, the artist had to quietly rebrand herself and start her customer base over from scratch just to escape from the harassment. In all of this, Legume looked the other way. I was at least able to comfort the artist from a place of relatable experience and help walk her through her grief in a fraction of the time it took me. The artist couldn't understand why this was happening, as she had considered Legume to be a true friend. We bonded, and ended up speaking on some positive memories of Legume, with both of us left wondering how it came to this. She thanked me profusely for effectively coming to her rescue, and wondered if it was possible to do the same for Legume. There was one thing I hadn't tried yet: Twitch ban appeal. Trying to work out whatever misunderstanding had to have taken place and letting Legume know I have so much to thank her for, or to at least ask to let me know what I did. I never received any kind of apology, nor the faintest hint of an explanation. All I got in response was one of her mods mocking me for no longer being able to type in the Discord. No explanation, no professionalism, just mockery. There is nothing rational about what happened on that day. I've tried to wrap my head around just what the heck happened back there and why. looking for advice, though without name-dropping Legume's identity, and it's gone all over the place. She used you and your friends for free labor, clout, and pity points, then kicked the louder out from under her once she became a big shot. You need to expose her before she takes advantage of anyone else. People-pleasing VTubers constantly get taken advantage of by rogue mods and the like, who enjoy fear-mongering them into assuming the worst about anyone they get close to. If you don't help her, no one will. It's probably just an unfortunate misunderstanding that spiraled out of control and no one actually had any ill intentions despite the result. Be glad you cannot comprehend why anyone would do this to another human being. I don't know what to make of it. I have so much I wanted to thank her for. She was a very sweet colleague who showed me the ropes and helped me make connections. She opened so many doors for me to new friends, work opportunities, and treasured life experiences. I considered her a trustworthy colleague with a voice of authority and experience worth listening to. She was an inspiration to me and personally invited me into this space on day one, so of course I was happy to do whatever she asked me to, even when her requests seemed odd, only for her to suddenly think everyone she got along with was just trying to pressure vague favors out of her, rather than people simply showing the same thoughtfulness and politeness she showed us. I wanted to see her thrive doing what she loved. I felt so conflicted about this whole thing. For the next several months, I was terrified to ever ask anyone for help for fear of pressuring favors out of them. Anytime I tried to say please, or thank you, or I'm sorry, or follow someone's instructions, or perform benign, polite gestures like opening the door for someone, I just get flashbacks to October 15th again and again, wondering, why? Why was I treated like a condemned criminal for this in such a dramatic, public manner? Why did she violate her own policies to strike me down while extending far more grace and closure to actual rule breakers? What did I ever do to her to make her hate me so much? Who would be the next person to paint me as a dangerous psychopath for being courteous? She gave us rules, we followed the rules, and then she got outraged at us for following the rules. I've seen post after post saying things like, how to show appreciation for your Oshi. Things like making fan art, engaging with the community, always being eager to offer help when asked for help. And I did all these things. She was so happy I did these things. And then she turned around and vilified me for specifically these things, insisting it had to be some sort of favor debt, or I must have only been doing it to get attention, or it had to be for my benefits somehow, and thus I needed to be purged immediately, as she publicly dragged people's names through the mud in the most drastic, nuclear level manner possible. This was a lot to place on a rookie VTuber. I had to debut fresh off the knowledge that the one who inspired me openly despises me for reasons that don't even exist. I've never quite been able to figure out what could possibly compel someone to go from life-changing kindness to thoroughly meticulous cruelty so hard, so fast. Absolutely none of this needed to happen. This whole fiasco never would have even taken place if she had bothered to communicate with anyone for 10 seconds, instead of jumping at the chance to spread lies and conspiracy theories about people who had always listened to her, defended her, supported her, comforted her, and loved her unconditionally. She always had trouble communicating, but it was never this bad. Why would she be so desperate to hurt people who cared about her? Why was any of this necessary? I don't know. No one will tell me. Never received any kind of apology or explanation. Nothing. Not a word. Not a single word. None of it adds up. People deliberately break the rules and antagonize her. They get a calm warning and a complete breakdown of what they did wrong. Complete strangers? They are given mod privileges on a silver platter, no questions asked. Individuals she personally knows who listen to her, defend her, support her, comfort her, and love her unconditionally? Mean-spirited gossip, personal attacks, and demonization. Make it make sense. I kept in touch with people who have personally witnessed her behavior behind the scenes, terrified to speak up, whether they were friends of hers or direct business associates. Both past and present. All of them feel powerless, with even less of a voice than I do. According to them, Legume was always bad with communication and would change her mind over and over and over again, up to the last minute, often without telling anyone until it was too late, not tell her staff of important matters they were expected to know or do, and refuse to take feedback. This problem was only exacerbated when she started isolating herself and chose to stop taking multiple points of view from different people into account, shifting instead to filtering all her thoughts, plans, opinions, and communication through one guy who basically took over, deliberately kept staff out of meetings, was also noticeably averse to communicating, and her associates have told me that's made her difficult to work with. So when the flood of new mods came pouring in with no context for anything that was going on, they became yes men for the other guy. This could mean a number of different things, but it basically points to a nigh complete non-existence of professionalism. I'm just so conflicted on the whole thing. What is even the right thing to do in this situation? Legume went viral, and what should have been a moment of celebration, she instead used as an excuse to shatter the lives of innocent people, leaving us to pick up the pieces. Does she realize how much damage she's done? Is she willing to fix any of it? All I can really do is look after people I know she's hurt while I gradually warn trustworthy individuals in the VTuber community of who this is, by name this time, and what she's done. And it's been getting so emotionally draining to explain this story over and over and over again, it was high time to make a video about it. So far, I've collectively received insight along the lines of, if you pursue this, please take care not to allow it to become an obsession. I've dealt with people attempting to control me like she describes, and rest assured, you are not that. All I can really say is to continue watching over her victims and to keep spreading awareness. Please don't beat yourself up over how she reacted. You did what you could. When people show you who they really are, believe them. I was afraid no one would believe me. I've been absolutely terrified to speak of it for so long, wondering who would even believe me over a beloved public figure who's been perceived as someone who could never hurt a fly. If I asked for help, asked for a favor, I'd end up being one step closer to becoming the monster she described. What could I do? I felt trapped. But, as it turns out, this scenario is depressingly common. And people are sick of it.
There's one tip in VTubing I feel like is not talked about and it really should be. Because you can search online and find hundreds of guides at this point. Building a community online, figuring out what times to stream, learning how to network, yada yada yada, all that. But something I don't see talked about is that you need to learn how to communicate. I cover Google Docs on stream weekly at this point, which I stream Monday and Wednesday, 7 p.m. CST. You know what the root cause of literally every single issue is every time? You guessed it, bad communication. You have got to learn how to tell a person how you're feeling, even if it's uncomfortable. And it be the talking about, oh, I love to talk, I love yapping, I love to learn how to communicate. You be yapping about stupid and not how you're actually feeling, and then you have problems and somebody drops a Google Doc on you. Lo and behold, if you would have learned how to communicate, that wouldn't happen. If you're dealing with someone who can't communicate, tell them. Let them know, like, hey, I don't feel like you're really communicating well, and I think you gotta work on that. Because if we want to continue being friends, continue working together, whatever it is, you have got to communicate. And I know this obviously goes outside of VTubing too, but I'm just so sick and tired of every week we get another Google Doc posted because two stupid couldn't communicate. Learn it!
But this time, it's more nuanced than usual. I couldn't tell you if she even knows what she did or if she's been advised into this complete disregard for professionalism, which is apparently all too common with people-pleasing VTubers. I've endured my share of unruly coworkers, but this one really takes the cake. She knew us all well enough to meticulously pinpoint our individual fears and weaknesses and exploited them against us. Performed these hit-and-run tactics of ghosting us before cutting contact to spread lies and conspiracy theories about us behind our backs, traumatized her victims into submission with her newfound viral power. Her reckless, impulsive actions got a privately owned business destroyed, and she abused her power to the point she nearly drove a friend of mine to self-unalive, which likely would have succeeded had I not directly intervened. A total betrayal of the ideals she assured us again and again had motivated her from the beginning. Now, I'm more used to workplace environments that employ rational adults. When you've got a coworker creating an unsafe work environment, you file a workplace dispute. What exactly is the equivalent to this? There's not exactly an employee manual in the VTuber community for me to refer to either. Do I just continue to discreetly warn people I trust about who this person is and what her destructive actions caused? Or do I simply rip the band-aid off and publicly reveal who this is once and for all? Some other third thing? At the time of this video, this VTuber is still out there, publicly applauded, while the general public has no idea how much suffering and senseless destruction has been caused by her hand. What do you think I should do? All I can really say in light of all this, especially for those just getting into the VTuber space, whether as a fan or a performer, is you are inevitably going to come across someone who possesses an adamant refusal to communicate. It is a reoccurring problem, so heed this warning. If someone isn't communicating, then please, for the love of humanity, let them know. Push them to communicate. Otherwise, evacuate. Or else this is what can happen, no matter how kind or helpless they seem. I've since replayed these events in my head over and over and over again, wondering what I could have done differently. And the only thing I can think of is that I should have pressed her to communicate more. However, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to come off as controlling or make her feel pressured to do anything. So much for that! The warning signs were there bright and early, but I would have had to go against my own nature to do anything about it. I am not comfortable asking for favors, let alone making demands. As a result of this incident, I've had to go fight against my instincts and do something I've avoided for years. Asking for help, advice, insight, again and again and again. If you're one of those people who struggles to communicate, for the love of humanity, everyone is not out to get you. People who look up to you will try to cheer you up simply because they appreciate you. If you're wondering what it is they want, don't resort to guesswork, just ask them. Hash it out in DMs and all that. It's like petting a cat. People don't need some ulterior motive to make the cat purr. It's not transactional. They just like hearing the cat purr. They're not motivated to pressure you into giving them favors through some conspiratorial game of 4D chess. They just like cheering you up simply because they enjoy seeing you happy. And it's a fun puzzle to them, figuring out what makes you smile so they can act upon it. Don't put them through this. Please. Now, if I could directly address the person I've been codenaming as Legume this whole time, you know who you are. Are you happy? Did you accomplish your goal? Did you find a new goal? If you're watching this, if you still stand by all the senseless destruction and suffering you caused, I'm not afraid of you anymore. That ship has sailed. I'm not letting this one get swept under the rug. Not while I'm still breathing. You have no power over me. I proceeded to start accomplishing my hopes and dreams right after the incident you caused. I continue to thrive in spite of you. Sure, you could always try to cancel me again, but I wouldn't recommend it. There is no chance of that panning out in your favor. However, if this is all news to you, and you somehow had no idea what your reckless, impulsive actions caused, then what did you think was going to happen after you started gossiping conspiracy theories about people who had always listened to you, defended you, supported you, comforted you, and loved you unconditionally? This could have been resolved in 10 seconds flat. Instead, it's been a year. This was the obvious outcome. Though, if you've ended up regretting everything and have felt trapped, thinking no one would hear you out, you can still talk to me. I don't understand why that was treated as not an option. That's still an option. That was always an option. That was never not an option. I always looked up to you. I wanted to be more like you. From my recollection, you're amazing at what you do. I had so much good news I was excited to share with you. I don't know about you, but I want to be able to lie on my deathbed content with the knowledge that I did everything in my power to bring people together. What do you want to be remembered for? It's not too late to do the right thing. Or did you forget the first thing you instructed me to do?